A contract is a legally enforceable agreement that is created when two or more competent parties agree to perform or avoid performing certain acts that they have a legal right to do that meet certain legal requirements. The Uniform Commercial Code's definition is the total legal obligation which results from the parties' agreement as affected by the UCC or any other applicable rules of law. Article 2 of the UCC is relevant to contract law. It applies only to transactions in goods or other tangible personal property. Common law regards the sale of fixed assets, services, or intangibles. For a contract to be enforced, it must contain 6 elements: offer and acceptance, mutual agreement, consideration, competent parties, legality of purpose, and proper form. For an offer to be valid, it must be definite and certain, communicated to the offeree, and made with serious intention. A valid acceptance must be communicated to the offeree and unconditional. An acceptance becomes effective when the parties so intend. Offers are terminated by lapse of time, revocation, rejection, death or incapacity, and destruction or illegality. There must be mutual agreement or a meeting of the minds. Parties must have a clear understanding of what they are undertaking. A voidable contract results if agreement is obtained by fraud, misrepresentation, mistake, undue influence, or duress, or if the contract is of adhesion or is unconscionable. Fraud is the intentional misstatement or non-disclosure of a material fact. Misrepresentation is the unintentional misstatement or non-disclosure of a material fact. A mistake is a belief that is not in accord with the facts. Undue influence occurs when someone uses power improperly to their advantage. Duress is applying improper pressure to gain agreement. Contracts of adhesion involve parties with unequal bargaining power, and unconscionable contracts are regarded as shockingly unjust or unfair. Consideration is the promises exchanged by parties to give up something of value. It may also include the benefit gained or detriment suffered. Valid consideration is legal, adequate, and possible to perform. The UCC dispenses with the requirement of consideration in certain contracts involving a merchant's written offer that provides the contract is irrevocable, a written discharge of a claim, or modifications of existing contracts. Agreements that lack consideration are barren, gratuitous, or illusory promises, and those supported by moral and past consideration. Parties must also be competent. A competent party is a person of legal age and at least normal mentality who is considered to understand the meaning of a contract. In contracts with minors, the minor has the privilege of disaffirmance. Once a minor reaches legal age, the contract must either be ratified or disaffirmed within a reasonable time. Minors are protected against their own inexperience, but not against their own wrongdoing. Contracts with the mentally incompetent are considered voidable and cannot be enforced. The intent of a contract must be legal, but in divisible contracts, the parts with legal purpose can be enforced. Agreements to suppress or eliminate competition are illegal unless specifically permitted by law. The Sherman Antitrust Act forbids agreements that unreasonably lessen competition, fix prices, allocate territories, or limit production. The Robinson-Patman Act makes it unlawful to discriminate, directly or indirectly, involving product pricing, advertising, and promotion. There are times when agreements in restraint of trade are in the public interest. The form of a contract must be correct. Certain contracts must be in writing, and others must not only be in writing, but also follow a prescribed form. Examples of contracts that must be in writing are agreements by an executor or administrator to pay the debts of a deceased person, agreements to answer for the debts of another, agreements that cannot be completed in less than 1 year, agreements made in contemplation of marriage, agreements to sell any interest in real property, and agreements to sell personal property for $500 or more.